We still like that, Massimo.
Yeah, we do. All right, let's get started. So we got a lot of guys on the call today, which is great. Focus is going to be junior hockey to the NCAA and talking about, we got a coach and two players that have gone through it to give their insights in that and talk about some other things as well. I'm going to start off with Angus. So for the guys that don't know, and we have bantam guys on this call and midget guys, Angus was a very small, very very okay bantam player. Sorry, Angus. He wasn't drafted. He didn't make summer camp or Team BC or anything like that. And he played E15 here at BWC and then really upped his game and then upped his game again the year after that and then went on to the BCHL and now NCAA. So Angus, can you give us a little bit of, we'll start with NCAA. What's a day in the life at UNH like?
It's honestly not that dissimilar to a day at Central. Like we'll wake up normally. At least for me, my earliest class started at 9. We'll have class from 9 to 1, and then we're at the rink from 2 till 6. And then normally we'll have probably an hour of video before practice. We'll have a kind of an hour and a half practice, and then there's free ice after for guys that want to stay out. And then we'll have a workout at some point within there, either before or after, depending on certain guys' class schedule. And then obviously go home from there, cook dinner, get some homework done if you really want to get it done, and then hit the hay.
Thank you. Ben, anything different as far as your day in the life at Maine?
Not a whole lot different. We just had our semesters switched. So first semester we practiced in the afternoon and our classes were in the morning, and then second semester it flipped the other way. We're practicing and lifting in the morning. But other than that, it's a very, very similar schedule to that.
Maco, man, what's a day in the life of an NCAA coach like?
A lot longer than it is for a player, that's for sure. So it's normally up in the 5 o'clock hour, doing some work at home before you get going, doing all your reading, catching up on all your NHL stuff. It's really hard too being on the East Coast with watching a lot of West Coast stuff. Because I mean, you're normally up until 12:31, so you're only getting about 4 hours sleep during the season. And then you go roll into the rink around. I normally got in there at 7:30 because my kids were at home still, but when they're out of the house, I'd probably get there at 7. Get our video prepped, get ready to go. We practice at our guys lift at 7:50, and then we're on the ice at 9 for skills every day for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. We come off, we do the ice, we go back on, and we practice from about 9:45 until 10:45 or 11. We got the ice till 11:30. So for a coach, you're doing all your prep stuff beforehand. Practice is all planned out the night before. Then you try and talk with as many guys during the day as you can before they got to leave. Just touch base with guys, see how they're doing. Then when they're out the door, we have lunch and then do a workout. And then you're on video and doing your phone calls and your emails and catching up and all that stuff. And normally home by about 4:30. And if you're not getting ready to go on the road or drive somewhere, like to go watch a game in Michigan or in Toronto, it's a normal night. It's pretty busy, but it's a lot of fun.
Thank you for that. So let's start with Angus and start way back in bantam. So you play bantam, your team is really good. You don't get drafted. What was sort of the mindset in going from bantam to the Elite 15 level?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was on a pretty strong team that bantam year, but I mean, every kid, you kind of think of like the bantam draft's kind of your forefront of your mind, especially when you're at that bantam age, you're wanting to get picked just because you see all your buddies getting picked and that sort of stuff. I mean, obviously it was disappointing not getting picked, especially when all my close buddies around me all got picked at some point within that draft. But I think, I mean, obviously knowing you, Leland, and knowing Jordy a bit through some skates kind of opened my eyes to E15 and using that kind of 15-year-old year as essentially like that big development year. Like I'd say I'm a late bloomer. relative to other players. So, I mean, that year gave me, I don't know, that extra time to kind of physically mature and develop my game into where I wanted it to be. And I think it was, I know it is probably the most influential year that I've played in hockey so far.
Now for you, Ben, similar case, you were, an undersized Vancouver Thunderbird player, and I don't think you didn't even make BC Cup at the time. And can you talk about your adjustment to, I know it's a big step for you. You were going to St. George's, and can you talk about your step life-wise and hockey-wise going from Bantam to E15 at BWC?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I was at St. George's High School, and that was before they had an academy program. And the only option really out of Bantam for me would have been going major midget at GVC or going to an academy. But the academy would have meant leaving school, obviously, which I was there for many years before. And I followed a player who went to Thunderbirds before me, Spencer Hunter. And I talked with him quite a bit. And when I decided to go to the E15 team, I look back now and I probably realized, like, if I never went to the E15s, I don't think I would have still progressed as well as I did. I don't know if I would have made it into junior A and moved on to college. I think that was probably the best step I could have taken.
For you, Maco, what was it like going from high school in Wisconsin to high school in the Lower Mainland area?
I mean, it was awesome for me to come back home and be at home, and then work with you and Jordy, and now obviously Sailor's there, and there were so many great people that were there at the beginning that it was a lot of fun. So the hockey I thought was a lot better. Our top guys were pretty close, but the depth that we had in our program was amazing, and I loved it. Those 5 years I had at BWC were awesome. It was an incredible amount of fun coaching those guys and getting to coach guys like Moss and Angus and Benny, and see where they're at now is just that's why you coach. It's fun.
Nice. Angus, to go from you start really coming on in midget, and then the adjustment to the Langley Rivermen. Can you talk a bit about that, going from midget to UCHL?
Yeah, it was a decent jump at the time, and I'm sure Benny can kind of say similar things that I'm going to say. But I mean, obviously, it's bigger guys, stronger guys. I mean, you're going up against 20-year-old men, and you're a 17-year-old kid. So I mean, that was a bit of a jump for sure. But I think with every level, like, it takes a little while, and then once you kind of settle in, you realize what works and what doesn't work, and you kind of adjust your game to what you can do. Like what you can do the best, and then in that level. I don't know. That's the biggest thing I thought, like, the biggest jump was probably physically. Like, it wasn't so much the speed from U18 to BCHL. It was just the fact that you're going up against guys who are 20 years old and you're 16, 17, 18 years old.
Right. For you, Ben, you were part of the first wave of going to the Spruce Kings from BWC. Can you talk about your experience adjusting from midget to the junior level?
Yeah, so I mean, I remember when I was in U18, I started to get a little bit bigger, and my game's more physical game, and I remember I would be able to hit guys, and I could power through guys. And that year when I was AP'd in the BC, I remember I tried to drive wide on a 20-year-old D-man, and he threw me and tossed me in the corner. That's when I kind of realized, like, these guys are 5 years older than you and bigger and stronger than you now. And so it's a big time for your body, from guys who are coming to the league at 150 pounds to guys who are 220 pounds. And that's a big difference than when you're playing in high school. You don't usually play against guys that big. But for me, I went up to Prince George, which is a big step. Kind of, I left home, so I was 8 hours away. It was snowy, wintry, kind of tougher to deal with sometimes, and especially you would miss home. But like, the hockey aspect, you learn as you go. So you're not going to jump into a junior A team for the most part and be the top guy and know absolutely everything, but you watch your older guys, and they take you under the wing and kind of teach you how to be a professional, pretty much.
Thanks. Mako, for you, coaching the midget level, what did you notice about the players that you felt like what made them ready to jump into the BCHL? Like what aspects of a midget prep or U18 player makes them ready to play BCHL the following year?
I don't think it's one thing that you can put your finger on. You can just say that this kid who had that. Or I mean, each player, like we're talking about Angus and Ben, totally different players. Like Angus plays a physical style, but he's not a guy who hangs his hat on being physical. He's a goal scorer, and that's something that he's got to learn to do at each and every level. Ben, was a very physically dominant player with a great shot, was super smart stick, great in the D zone, great down low. The one thing I would tell kids is you have to figure out who you are as a player and then be the best at that. And that doesn't mean that won't change down the line. Like just because you're not on the power play in Bantam doesn't mean when you're 18 that you're not going to be a guy that's on the power play. Like everyone develops at different levels. And, Rizzo is a guy who's always been a skill guy. So he's got to continue to be a skill guy, but he's got to also learn how to play down the lineup. I think it's, for a guy like Ben, it's easier for him, I think, out of all those guys, because Ben can play a style where he can play fourth line at the next level, or he could be a first line because he has the ability to compete and play hard and still have the skill level to do that. And so you have to be a guy that's versatile enough when you're young that you can step in and play. Because if you can only do one thing and you're one dimensional and they already have three guys that do that, you're not going to be able to play.
For sure. Angus, can you talk a bit about, going to Central and how you manage your time school-wise, class-wise, and then what the adjustment was like going to school at an NCAA school?
Yeah, so I mean, first off, I thought Central was a great school. They take care of the players really well. But the biggest thing that I had to learn is time management. Like you just said, your day is a lot busier because you have to commute back and forth, and a lot of times that's an hour car ride there and back just based off of rush hour traffic, and then by the time you get home it's going on 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I mean, even if you have small little gaps in your day, you have stuff you don't really want to do, like say you have to finish that math homework or something like that, you got to kind of force yourself to do that. It takes a huge burden off you, and then I don't know. I always found I was less stressed about hockey when I had a clear plate. I had no schoolwork or anything like that due, or anything upcoming. So I tried to make sure everything was done and out of the way as soon as possible, and then that kind of helped me, especially at university. I mean, I didn't find it that crazy of a jump. I mean, it's similar schedule like I mentioned previously, so it's I've been able to kind of use some of the stuff I learned while I was at Central in university. It's helped a lot for sure.
Ben, for you, going to school, dealing with your classes, and then dealing with classes at Maine, similar question.
Yeah, Central, I think the biggest difference between high school and college is the relationship you have with your teachers. At Central, I mean, your teachers would know your names and you would talk to them after class and they would help you out with stuff. But in college, I had 8 different professors, and I think I only knew 2 of them personally. And when you have a class of 200 or 300 students, it's different. They don't help you out as much, so you have to learn that sort of independence. And I think for me, taking 2 years out of high school, the maturity level, I was a fairly mid-average student in high school, and the extra 2 years to mature for university helped me, and I ended up doing a lot better in school than I'd ever thought I would.
Maco, for you, we'll go a little bit deeper in the recruiting process, maybe the next question, but How much inside that recruiting process do you talk about a player's grades?
Oh, well, I mean, for us, it's huge. I mean, we're not a school that's going to wow people with, a sexy stadium and locker room. And, we're not a Big Ten school, so we don't have a $10 million budget that we can use. We're not chartering to every single place and flying back home. And we don't have a personal chef. We have breakfast and lunch at the rink, and it's good food, and we have a great rink, and we have a great locker room. So for us, we have to go and get kids that want to come to Bowling Green. Just like I think it's not as bad as BWC's locker rooms at all. It's not as bad as BWC's rink, but I kind of equate it to that in that, like, if you want to get better, you come and play at BWC, right? Like, if you want to achieve the goals that you want to achieve in hockey, you come to BWC. Nobody's put more kids into Division I college than the Burning Winter Club's academy out of the CSSHL. I think we have a great record putting kids into the Western League as well. Leland, I'm sure you have those stats. So for us, it's important that we get kids that are great hockey players, that are great people, and great students. The way that we go out and recruit kids is in that order. We're looking at you to be a good hockey player, but those other two things count equally in our mind. We're able to stack money from an academic and an athletic standpoint. So Ben Wozni, who played E15 for you and then played midget prep for me, he's a kid that is a really good student, and so he's on a full scholarship, but 75% of that is academic or is athletic, and 25% is academic because of his grades. And so we can then take that money, because each school only gets 18 scholarships. You have a hard salary cap, and you try and recruit players out of that. So we can then go get other guys with that money and put packages together for them. So it's really important to us. We almost had a 4.0 as a team this past semester. We were gunning for it. We had end up with a 3.89 the semester before. We had a 3.57. So we really put a lot of value on that, and think it's really important. I mean, ultimately, you're only going to play hockey for a finite amount of time. You need to be able to step in, and our guys graduate when they walk out the door here. They don't have to come back and do it like they do at other places. We make sure that they get their degree.
Sorry, Angus, for you, biggest questions, one of the biggest things I wanted to touch on with you and Ben was dealing with adversity. So, you went through some ups and downs in Bantam, and for sure you went through some ups and downs in E15. Can you talk about, you don't have to go into specifics, but talk about when you went through adversity, how you dealt with it mentally, and what you learned from those situations?
Yeah, I'm sure Leland and Maco can attest. Sometimes my emotions get the better of me on the ice, and I've continuously tried to work on that. But I think the biggest thing is just being as mentally tough as possible. Obviously, dealing with adversity is something that's super common in hockey. You got to be able to deal with it. And it's the great players that I've been around. Those are the guys that deal the best with adversity. And I don't know, for me personally, the way I dealt with it was going and working on my game. If I haven't scored for 4 games, okay, let's go shoot some more pucks, and let's stay out for that extra amount of time after practice or before practice. And I don't know, I just think I'd rather work myself out of it versus just hoping. And I think that kind of sets my mindset when it comes to training, when it comes to anything really. I don't want to back down from a single thing and let adversity get the better of me.
And I thank you for swearing and adding that honesty to the Zoom call. And Ben, don't be afraid to swear coming up here. So for Ben, for you, I know you had some injuries and were out a lot of time. Going through that injury, what did you learn about adversity, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, adversity sucks. No one wants to have to deal with it, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen, and something's not going to go your way. And fortunately for me, in my 18-year-old year in Prince George, I was having a really good year. I was on a little point streak, and um, I got tangled up on kind of a puck race and hit the boards on a weird angle and ruptured my spleen 5 games before playoffs. And so our team won our division that year, and so it looked like we had a really good chance on winning things. And when I got that news, it was basically telling me I had 2 to 3 months where I had to recover, and there's no way I was gonna get back to going on the ice for the season. And so, that was hard for me. I was in the hospital for 5 6 days, and I ended up having to go home. So I was away from the team, and every time they come down, I go out and watch, obviously, but it was still hard for me. I wasn't very mobile for the first month or so, and then I kept on. I decided, like, mentally, I tried to stay as clear as I could. I wasn't doing the best mentally for a little bit. I was kind of trying to stay away from the whole game. I was sad I couldn't play it, but and then I ended up getting a little bit of good news from the doctor, where they said, like, my spleen started to heal faster than they thought, and there could be a little possibility to come back. And like Angus said, like, you want to work on your game in those times. I went as soon as they said I could start to skate, I started to skate. As soon as they said I could shoot, I started to shoot. Any little contact, I took it as far as I could. I pushed it as much as I could to try and get back. And you take that negative energy and try and turn it around, and it's what the pros do, and it's how you move on to the next level.
Yep.
Maco, for you, of whether it was back when you were playing in way back when, or anything with coaching, going through adversity, how you dealt with it, anything you could talk about mentally in regards to that.
Well, I think, it's funny. I was on a call with probably like 46 coaches are on this call, and there's, like, it's a who's who in the NHL of, like, all the top guys are on it, and one of the topics they had was going through a slump, and how do you get your team out of a slump? How do you talk to get guys out of a slump? And there's no secret one recipe, like, you just do this thing, it's going to happen. But one of the things that everybody talked about, from Scotty Bowman to Mike Babcock to even Rod Brindamore, talking about his playing days, that you have to go back to the basics, and you got to go back to your work ethic. There's two things that you can control: your attitude and your work ethic. And if you control those, and you make sure that those are the top, you're going to come out of it. It will happen. But you got to trust that you do everything that you can with your attitude and your work ethic. Puck's not always going to go in for you, but it's, and both Ben and Angus spoke to it about putting that time in, making sure that you're working on your craft, making sure that you're trying to get better every single day.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. For Angus, to start with you, the recruiting process, it's kind of fuzzy for, I think, a lot of the guys on this call, because, they know when the team drafts you, a team lists you, they offer you a contract, you sign, you're going there. Now, with the NCAA, like, what was your experience like when you're playing BCHL, or with even in midget before that with UNH? How did that process go, and how many teams did you talk to, and what did that look like from your end?
Yeah, I mean, I committed pretty early compared to other players. I think it was kind of, I don't know how to kind of explain it. Like, the biggest thing is you just can't worry as a player. You can't worry about that, or else you'll just get in your own head about it, and then you just won't play well, and you'll tie yourself up and not. I think the biggest thing is just, let them come to you. Just have full trust and belief in yourself and in your game, because if you play your game to the best of your potential, like, you're going to draw eyes, you're going to draw attention. I talked to a few teams, but for me, at least, like, talking to UNH and Coach Souza. He kind of sold me on the whole plan of getting the program back to where it should be, and I think we're on a right track there. And I wanted to be a part of that. I think, obviously, guys, when they're thinking, the biggest thing, the best decision I ever made in hockey was going to a smaller school, relatively speaking, compared to like a Denver and North Dakota or something like that. Because at a smaller school, you're going to get opportunity, and obviously Benny can attest to that as well. He played a big role this year at his freshman year when we played him. So fine, as it may not look as cool as some of your buddies that are going to Denver, but you got to go wherever's right for you and whatever the best fit is for you.
Ben, same question for you. What was the recruiting process like? Maybe talk about visits or talking with teams, and when it sort of goes from just talking to actually them making an offer, and how do you weigh that, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah, for sure. Me and Angus were in different situations. He committed
Thanks, man.
in pretty much right after his U18 year, and I committed to Maine after my second year of junior, so I was almost 19 at that
Beautiful.
point. The bottom line is just
Benny, you're mute.
That was weird, but yeah. If teams will see you, if you're a good enough player, if you play your game, you will get noticed, and that's kind of where the way I did it. I didn't even think about college hockey when I was U18 or even my first year of juniors. I didn't talk to a single team when I was 17 playing junior A, and then when I turned 18, I developed over the summer and I got used to the league, and overall I talked to almost 30 different NCAA schools my 18-year-old year. And so how the process typically works is teams will get in touch with you for a week or two, and they'll look at if they're very interested, they'll look at a possible fly down date. And so that means you can spend 48 hours on a university campus, and they show you the campus, show you the rink. Usually you stay with some of the players on the team, and they take you out for a dinner and you spend time with them. And then at the end of that visit that's when you have a meeting with the coaching staff, and they typically would give you a scholarship offer at that point, or just acknowledge that they want you to commit, and then talk about the part later. So I went on 2 visits. I went to Alaska at the very beginning of my 18-year-old year, and it was good to see the school, how it worked. They had a beautiful facility, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to commit that early to that school. And so I learned how to basically let them know it wasn't going to work in a respectful manner, because they offered. And then I waited 6 months throughout the whole year, nothing too serious. And in my head, I wasn't really sure, maybe I made a mistake. And then after the season ended, that's when teams in college, their season ends and they can start recruiting again. And that's usually when the second wave of attention comes. And that's when I ended up flying out, visiting the Maine, and I committed a couple of days after.
Thanks. We're so honored that Massimo Rizzo has finally joined the call. So for you guys, I'm sure most of you know who he is. He's played for the Coquitlam Express this past year and is headed to NCAA. Mass, can you talk about your recruiting experience?
Okay, yeah, my experience was a little different. I was drafted into the Dub after my Bantam season, and then took my midget year. I didn't want to sign right away because I want to make a decision that was best for my future. So I took my midget year, and I went on a couple of visits. I saw 5 different schools. Obviously, Maco was a big college advocate, so he was helping me out a lot with that stuff. And then I kind of gathered all the information I could. I then made a decision whether I wanted to go to the WHL or go to the BCHL and go to college. So I thought it was best for me and my development just to go the NCAA route. And then my 16-year-old year, I kind of kept in touch with the 5 schools that I went down and visited, because I didn't really want to commit until I could sign my
my letter of intent to actually go to the school, just because, things can change with coaches and there's different variables. So I kind of waited on that. And then my 17-year-old year, I kind of narrowed it down and had a couple schools that I was talking to. And for me, like, I committed to the University of North Dakota, and I was debating between a couple different schools like Denver and Wisconsin. And I just kind of thought that North Dakota had the best fit, best relationship with the coaches, most opportunity for me to succeed. And like, obviously knew a couple players that were there too, and just talking to them and their experiences at that school, it's something that I wanted to do. So I decided to commit going into my 17-year-old year. And then I was committed to go in as a true freshman after my 17th year, but obviously got injured and had surgery that offseason, and it was best for me to play another year of junior hockey, which I loved. I had a great time at Coquitlam. I learned a lot. I added tools to my game that I didn't have before, which was just getting me ready for going in next season.
Thanks, Mass. Maco, for you, when you're going through offering a scholarship to a player, those discussions with the coaching staff, how much of it is, we need a D, we need a forward, and how do you compare a player that plays in the BCHL with a player that plays in the USHL or a player that plays in high school in Massachusetts? Like, how do you guys bounce all that around and decide to go with a player when you make a scholarship offer?
Maco, you're mute.
Is he on the call? Is Maco on the call?
Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. You don't really know until you see it. I think it's for me, everybody watches tape. Everybody watches hockey TV. Guys are watching your games. Like, if you don't think someone's watching, like, then you're not paying attention. Like, we are watching hockey all the time from everywhere. So it doesn't mean I'm watching a whole game either, but the question, Leland, I think the way it's set up right now, the USHL is above and beyond every other league out there. It used to be that a lot of American kids would go play in the Western League or the O or the Q. They don't do that anymore. They all go play in the USHL. Like, it's very rare that they don't and then go play the college route. So since that's happened, the USHL has become the #1 league in North America. BCHL is second. The AJ is probably on a tie or third, depending on it. So when you have that kind of narrowed down, you still go looking at guys, you go watch them play, you go look at the development camps, you go try and catch them all. But you have to trust your eye. It's no different than the fact that you trusted your eye when we brought in Angus. It's no different than we trusted our eye when we brought in Ben Poisson. It's not like people were beating their doors down for those guys. Like, Rizzo was an easy one, right? Like, everybody in the world knew that Moss was going to be a great option. So that was a no-brainer. But finding that Ben Poisson or that Angus Cruikshank, it becomes your challenge. And like we talked about in looking at kids from an academic standpoint, it's so important. And I know on the West Coast, like, the Western Hockey League draft is so important. And I understand where people are at, but the reality is you don't play at the top level of your game when you're 14. You play your best hockey when you're 18 or 19 years old in terms of a development setup, and you're still going to get better. Like, Ben and Angus and Riz, I really truly believe have their best hockey still in front of them. So for the guys on your team that didn't get drafted this year, aren't playing on the first line, didn't play power play, like, you have to stick with it. It's survive and advance. And can you get that little bit better every single year? That has to be your goal. And if you do, then you'll have a chance. Like Ben talked about it. He didn't talk to 25 schools. All three of these guys have a completely different experience in how they came from bantam into midget to junior and now into college. For all three of them, it was a unique experience to them. And I think it's important that everybody understands that their experience will be unique to them too. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't go out there and go, compare yourself to yourself. Are you getting better? And if you were getting better, then you're on the right track.
Massimo, for you, we asked the guys earlier, but I wanted to bring this up with you for sure, is dealing with adversity. So I know when you were first year Bantam, you were a Band-Aid and you barely played, and then you dealt with some major injury stuff in junior hockey. Can you talk about maybe how hard it was and what mentally you did to get over it, and what, now looking back on it, what opportunities that allowed you to having that time off?
Yeah, you could definitely call me a Band-Aid for sure. First year Bantam, barely played any games, broke my wrist, came back for a week, and dislocated my shoulder, came back. So I didn't really have much of a first year Bantam look, but one thing John Batcher told me, which was pretty cool, is I was even talking about my dad the other day. He's not upset that I didn't play. He's upset that I didn't learn that year. And so, I try my best to go to the rink every day, watch practice, and stick around in that aspect. But I then played my second year Bantam, and midget was all good, and kind of had a nagging groin injury that I really didn't think too much of. And then I ended up hurting my back before my first year of junior. So I kind of missed that off season, came back, had a strong year of junior, my first year, and then hurt my back again that next summer, which is kind of devastating. That was kind of my Helinka Gretzky cup. So, obviously as a hockey player, you always want to do the best and play at the highest level. And so it's kind of tough just watching your teammates have fun, watching your teammates do that. But, you kind of try to stay in the game and do things that if you can't skate and you can't do stuff, either watching film or you're working on your wrist strength, or you're developing your game that way. And then after my 17-year junior, had hip surgery, which obviously took a lot, but obviously mentally you're down on yourself, you're upset, you're missing out, you can't have fun, you can't train, you can't skate, but it's kind of part of the journey. I know I actually just finished, I'm here in Vail, I just finished my surgery on my other hip. And I kind of looked at it two different ways. My first year after getting it done, I was super, honestly, more depressed. I can't do anything. I'm bed rest. I'm missing out on another off season. And you see your friends that are in college and getting drafted in the first couple rounds and going to development camps, and you're sitting there not being able to do very much. So, and then honestly, this year after getting it done, kind of look at it in a different view where it's a journey. Obviously you want to make it and you want to be there as fast as you can, but you're definitely going to go through some bumps in the road. And it's kind of honestly how you handle those bumps. I know people who I played with who can get injured or face different stuff in their lives, and they take a different path where they either get all mopey and they drink, drugs, do other stupid shit like that, where they're kind of throwing it away. Where I kind of see it, stick to the process, focus on things you can control. Obviously, a lot of this was out of my control, but you just focus on rehabbing, getting back to it, and then once you're strong, once you're healthy, is just sticking to it. I think a lot of my problem, even when I was younger, I kind of thought my body was invincible. So even in my training and that kind of stuff, I would just go 100 miles an hour and not really think about doing things properly and doing things right. So I've kind of learned that now, that when you're doing things like that, you're educating yourself on that kind of stuff, and you're looking at it from that point of view. But I think honestly, adversity kind of makes you stronger, builds character in you. So it's just kind of all the way that you handle it.
Thanks, Mass. Angus, for you, now that we're in this off season, how much of your focus is working on your weaknesses? How much of it is improving, emphasizing your strengths? And do you do video? What do you do in the off season to get better?
Honestly, I kind of want to take some time off to begin with. I mean, obviously your body's broken down from the wear and tear of the season. Obviously college, you play less games, but I think those games are a lot more high intensity just because there's a lot more on the line. But no, I kind of take a few weeks to kind of recover and do my recovery work. And then I'll start kind of implementing some stuff in the gym. I'll start shooting pucks and skating again. I mean, the biggest thing for me is like, I want to work on my weaknesses. Obviously, we all do. We want to have the most well-rounded game possible. But at the same time, for each individual player, you have your set of strengths. So it's continue to improve on those strengths and to make those strengths even better than they already are. And I mean, for me, I think one of my weaknesses that I got to work on is it's my passing. I don't think my passing is very good. But I also want to continue to improve my strengths, which I think is my shot. So at the same, like, as much as you want to work on your weaknesses and round out your game, you got to realize who you are as a player and what your role is, and be able to improve on those as well.
Thanks, Angus. Ben, for you, what's your focus in the off season?
Yeah, my off season, I absolutely believe that taking time away from hockey is important. Usually after a full season, especially my last couple of years have been 7-8 month seasons, and so I usually take about a month away from the ice. I take about 2 weeks away from the gym, kind of relax and let my body recover. But once I fully get back into my summer training, I try kind of a 3-step process. My first step is typically working on the skills part of the game, where I'll go out on the ice with the skills coach. I usually skate with Josh, and we do a lot of shooting and passing and hands type of work. And then in the middle of summer, I'm skating probably 3 or 4 times a week at this point, usually twice on skills and then twice-ish on skating. I think skating is the most important part and the most attractive part of anyone's game. If you're a good skater, it really puts you ahead of a lot of people. So I really focus on improving my skating, because that's always been a weaker part of my game, is the efficiency of my skating especially. And then the final step is usually I try and get into practices that are similar to like a regular season practice. So I skate out in North Shore. I skate with Angus, and we skate with Copeland, and he runs a practice where it's 12 forwards, 8D, and 2 goalies, and you do like team drills and line rushes and 5-on-5, and so you kind of get the full season prep for you. So that's kind of my summer training.
Maco, for you, what advice for players on what to do in this time of year? From what you've seen and noticed, and how much as an NCAA coach are you in contact with your players, maybe urging them to work on different things and that type of thing?
Unmute.
Still muted.
Like,
Gotta teach this guy how to use Zoom.
Holy. Never used technology properly.
There you go. I haven't done it on my phone. I haven't done it on my phone before, so I apologize. Say the question again. Now I got rattled.
What advice do you, for kids, for players in the off season?
Oh, for training.
Attack weaknesses, attack their strengths, time spent, and as an NCAA coach, like, are you in contact with your players, saying like, hey, like, are you working on your first step, 2 steps, or that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really changed how I coached or what I did. Like, I'm in constant contact with our players, just sending them little clips. I'm always looking for things, whether it's, stuff I see on Instagram or European coaches are doing, or guys are sending out stuff from this past year, like just little things that I think will help our guys. And I know that they're all working on their shot, and we're looking, analyzing their video, we're looking at their stick handling and their patterns, and we're just kind of looking at those things too. I think the number one thing though that all guys should really be focused on is trying to get faster. The too much time, I think, is and concern is spent on how much you weigh and how much you're lifting. And the reality is it's not as translatable or as important as how fast you are. And
how efficient, Ben talked about efficiency in skating, the margins down the line end up being smaller and smaller and smaller. But what separates a guy between being a college player, being an East Coast League player, being an American Hockey League player, being an NHL player, it's the margins are so small, and so every little edge you can get is going to help you. But with the direction of the game, if you're going to focus on something, I would focus on getting faster, and then I would focus on being the fittest you can possibly be. And the only way you can get really, I think you can really get faster is sprinting. The only way that you can get in really, really good shape is running. And so the more that guys do that, the better they will do at this level and at the next levels. And I look at the NHL guys and how they're training and how they're getting, they're not skating very much at all. Some guys are, but the majority of them are skating, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the season starts, because the season is so long, and they need to get themselves ready. So the best way to get ready is to really take care of your body and make sure your body can handle that pounding.
Thanks, Maco. I always thought so too. I always noticed that out on the track, the guys that were the best sprinters on the track, I always thought, well, he's also the fastest skater on our team. So
Yeah.
they're pretty much always the same guys. So I always thought, if
Totally.
the players that say they need to get faster, I always told them, get your ass out on the track and do sprints, because
Work on your sprinting and your form. Yep.
very, very similar. Massimo, for you, one of the biggest areas I feel like still needs to be explored even more is that mental side of the game, that sports psych. How much time have you spent on that side of your game, and maybe whether it's books or sports psychologist or breathing or meditating or visualization? Can you talk about any of the mental side of the game you've gotten into?
Yeah, I've seen a sports psychologist probably for the last 3 years, and so just from that point of it, and honestly, it wasn't much of a sports psychology that we started with. It was more to do with building confidence, trusting in yourself. I mean, obviously, when you move up levels and you go to junior hockey, you're kind of scared of your coach. You're scared to have those tough conversations, or maybe when you're on the ice, you're not as confident. And you're kind of scared to make plays. I definitely went through that in my 16-year-old year. I was kind of nervous and scared with the puck. I wasn't really playing my game. And it was affecting me because obviously you're being recruited and coaches like you for the way you play. So when you get there, it's tough to keep that confidence up and play that certain way. So definitely dealt with that for sure. But just from the sports psychology part, I went through that process of trusting in who I am and what I bring to the table, and gaining that confidence in myself and my ability, and handling different situations, and work on different visualization stuff, and getting prepared for the game. I like to prepare a lot before my games and practices, whether that's warming up or watching film, or kind of doing that stuff away from the rink to help you on the ice. So there's definitely different little stuff that you can do that helps. I think for me too, so I'm not done. You're about to jump in there, but even with sports psychology and seeing psychologists, a lot of people are kind of it's that old written way where you might be embarrassed by it, or you don't want to tell people about it. And I tell my sports psychologist all the time, is use me an example. I love doing that kind of stuff. I love growing my mental game, working on myself, becoming a better person, even in my day-to-day life, working through that kind of stuff. I'm a better person. I'm more confident. I trust myself. I'm able to do more in different situations that are away from the rink. And then even at the rink, having tough conversations with your coaches, or going to your line mates and talking about that kind of stuff that you need to work on. Or that's when you're growing up, you're kind of afraid to do that kind of stuff. But that definitely helps you along the way.
Thanks, Mass. Angus, for you, anything mental game, sports psych wise?
Yeah, I've started working with a sports psychologist. I started with him last year, and I mean, the biggest thing for me was, like I alluded to earlier, was I'd get too down on myself. I'd get pissed off out on the ice if something didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, or some shit hit the fan. And I mean, it's still something I'm working on to this day. I mean, I think the biggest thing is like I mentioned earlier, was, I mean, the best players are able to deal with adversity the best, and that would mean they're the most mentally tough guys around. So they're able to, like, if shit hits the fan, they're able to deal with it and kind of adjust from there and still be the best players on earth. So I mean, I mean, if anyone's ever interested in it, I think it's a very good idea. It's a good outlet for sure. I mean, it's kind of weird at first, but you kind of get into it and get into a rhythm with the guy, and you build that kind of relationship of trust. But it's I think it's a really good tool that players should use more often.
Benny, same question.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I also use a sports psych guy. I haven't used one up until this year for the most part. We had a guy come in at the very beginning of our year, and he did like a classroom session with our team for 3 days, and then throughout the year he'd call in like groups of 5 or 6 guys. He'd call once a week, and just for 20 minutes, half hour, and it would be talking about the last weekend, and if it was a bad weekend for you personally or for the team, how to bounce back and how to focus on becoming the best version of yourself, up to date, and not worry about the past. He's also, I mean, it's another resource in college. I mean, I think most teams have a sports psych person that works with them, and so he's awesome for us. He says if any of us need to call, or if just need anything from him, we can call him anytime, any week, and he'll be there for us.
Maco, for you from a team standpoint, like Ben just mentioned, they said they have a guy. Do you guys have a guy, or is that something you guys do on a monthly or biweekly or that type of basis?
You know, we have a guy that's on staff at our school, and that's his job. So he pulls guys out in small groups during the week, and we will move in with him as well to be inside those meetings. But he's really good. You know, I think that all 3 of these guys would say, and any player will tell you, and all the guys know that, you know, you play your best when you're confident, and your confidence, it comes from knowing and trusting yourself, and especially in special situations. But you know, when you're playing your best like that, you don't think, you just do. It's the Bruce Lee concept of, you know, flow like water, right? So that's something that we really try to do with our guys as well, is talk less to them, even in between periods. We might show them one clip, but we talk less to our players. This is at least that I've ever talked to our guys, because we really try just to let them play. Even after games, we don't, other than we say we have a meeting tomorrow at X time, that's it. We don't talk to them in the room. If they want to come talk to us, they know they can come talk to us one-on-one, but just to let the players play the game. So I would say for all of your guys, especially at you know, at the Bantam age, the thing that I think that they need to work on most is how they talk to themselves, and what are the things that they say to themselves, and are they using positive self-talk or not? Because it's something that they can easily use to get themselves better, but it's really, really difficult to perform at a high level if you don't have a positive voice inside your head talking to yourself.
Thanks, Maco. So you said you coached less. I couldn't believe you saying that. You're talking to them less.
It's true.
How was your life with that?
Hey, if you want to get better, you got to make adjustments.
How hard was it not to just blast into that dressing room and start getting fired up between periods?
Really hard. Really hard, but that's what we're doing. So, and it worked. I mean, we had a really good year, and so I like this idea, and it's you know, obviously a different level and a different way of doing things. So I enjoyed it. I really did.
Right. Okay. For all 3 guys. So Massimo, for you to start. So you were on a championship team in Bantam. You guys won Westerns. Can you talk about maybe traits or aspects of teams where you kind of have a feeling like, yeah, we could be a championship team? Like what aspects of team and teammate and brotherhood and all that sort of thing goes into a championship team?
Yeah, for me, I think our Bantamere was one of probably the closest team I've ever been on. And I think that's the biggest thing is just having that team bonding, having everyone on the same page. You love everybody on that team, and they're still some of my best friends to this day. So I think that's the biggest thing is having that relationship with everyone where there's no real toxic people in the room that are bringing people down. Everyone's on the same page, and then a lot of that's accountability. Having that relationship with your teammates where if someone's slacking off or not doing things on the ice or in the gym, you have the ability to pick each other up, and it's not really a personal thing where you're getting mad at each other because of it. Everyone's there for the same reason, the same goal. And so that Bantamere, we had a pretty stacked team. So that kind of helped too. But even my last year in Coquitlam, obviously with junior hockey, it's harder and with older guys and stuff like that. But we had a really close team. We had a good relationship with everyone. We had a good relationship with our coaches. We kind of all understood what our goal was. We all bought into that. And then it's just every day in practice, everyone wanted to win. So we were always pushing each other to get better in skills and in practices and in dry land. I think that was the biggest thing for us.
Angus, for you, you won a Western Bantam Championship, and then you won, World Junior A Challenge. Can you talk about being a part of those championship teams and what sort of traits and aspects those teams had?
Yeah, Massimo touched on a lot of them, but I think the two biggest things that stood out to me were, at least from the teams that I was lucky enough to win with, was there was a swagger, there was a sense of confidence within every single person in that group that the guy beside you is going to go out and do his job, and we're going into the game knowing we're going to win the game. And then obviously in the same sort of thing in the World Junior A Challenge. Obviously, it's different kind of tournament format, and everyone gets kind of thrown together to begin with. But that was probably one of the closest teams I've been on. Everyone meshed really well together. And I think the biggest thing is for both of those teams is holding people accountable. There's a difference between being a good friend and a good teammate. And when I'm at the rink, I'd rather be around 25 other good teammates versus good friends, because those guys will hold you accountable because they want the same end goal that you want. Your best buddy, if you mess up or you're just you aren't giving it your all, they aren't going to call you out, but a good teammate will call you out.
Thanks, Angus. That's awesome stuff. Ben, for you with PG, you guys had a pretty sick run. You guys dominated that year. One goal away from a national championship. Can you talk about that group and that sort of team culture?
Yeah, I mean, Angus nailed it there when he mentioned having a kind of team swagger and team confidence. It helps you play. It pumps you up and it intimidates other teams. I remember for us, we go into a playoff series and teams were scared to come to our rink. They were scared to play us because we were confident. We'd play like dicks. We'd stand up for each other, and if anyone would do something to us, there would be all five of the guys on the ice would stand up for them. And that translates to defense and offense too. I mean, guys would block shots with their faces if they had to on our team. And I mean, some of my best friends to date are from that Prince George team. And I mean, as we're talking right now, my phone goes off and it's our group chats from the last year in Prince George. Guys are still talking to each other. And I mean, there's talk about, before this whole COVID thing, there's talk about trying to get 8 or 10 guys back in Prince George for a week reunion in the summer. And so, I mean, it's just creating that unbelievable family brotherhood bond in a team is the biggest part. And then obviously you have to have the skill and the whole thing. But I think as a team, the relationship you have is the biggest aspect.
Thanks, guys. That's awesome. Maco, for you, can you talk about that same thing, but can you maybe add in a little bit what the college atmosphere is like for games and that type of thing?
Oh, it's so unique. It's really, the best way I can describe it is if you guys have been to a playoff game, whether it's professional or like a Giants game, when you have a building that, you know, in college, most of the crowds are between, you know, 5 to 12,000. I think Moss will be the lucky guy at Ralph Engelstad has 16, right? So, but for the majority of the you know, you're going to have a 2-game series where the crowd is just bonkers, and they are rabid, and they're going nuts the whole time. It's totally like a playoff atmosphere, and the band's playing, the music's playing, you can't hear yourself. Like if you call timeout, you bring the guys in, like you might as well even call timeout half the time because nobody can hear what's being said. So that's what a college game and atmosphere is like, and it's so much fun. I know that Ben and Angus can speak to what it's like for them as a player, just how that level of support you get at the home rink and how important that is and how much fun that is. It's so unique. We don't find that anywhere in Canada. Like nobody gives a crap about school sports. It's not who we are. But in the US, it's like the most important thing in those people's life. You know, and Maine, obviously, Ben has, you know, probably a top 5 crowd, right, in college hockey, and you know we're right there too. And so I know I know how awesome that is to have the place just, it's reverberating, and I get goosebumps just talking about it right now, you know. And I know our guys love it, like they just love playing at home, and we play, you know, the style of hockey that I know Ben loves to play. Like we run the shit out of people. Like everybody on our team like plays every single shift like it's a playoff game, and we want teams to go away in the first 5 minutes. We want them to go, oh my God, what the hell did we get ourselves into here? Why are we even here? So that's Bowling Green style hockey, and it's you need to settle down, but it's awesome. Like it really is. It's everything that you would want at this level.
Massimo, Rizzo, for you, what about UND made you think this is where I want to go to school?
I think UND was like my 3rd or 4th visit down there. And then I got there, small town, freezing cold. So, you know, that part of it's like, you think, do I really want to live here? Then you get inside, you see the arena, probably nicer than, it's like an NHL arena. You're treated like an NHL player. They got 16,000 seats. Their ice is pretty sweet. You go down to the dressing rooms, and they got an NHL dressing room. They got underwater treadmills, theater rooms. You got, like, you're treated like a NHL player. And I think just the history of the players that they put through that program and that have made to the NHL was definitely appealing to me. But the big thing was like sitting down with the coaches and getting a feel for them, building that relationship, talking through different opportunities that I'd have at the school, and then talking to players who have gone through the process and been to North Dakota and hearing all the amazing stuff that they say about that program. It was one of the big factors for me too. But just it's kind of where I thought I'd fit in. I obviously want to be an NHL hockey player, so I thought that was the best spot for me and where I felt I can develop my game and make it that jump to that next level.
Angus, for you, playing at UNH, they throw like a fish on the ice or something after the first goal. Can you talk about the college atmosphere, both at UNH and both at other barns that you've gone into?
Yeah, I mean it's not like it's not like anything you really see. Like Maco said, it's a playoff atmosphere every weekend. I mean it's cool. Like each school's got their own traditions. They got the same song that they play after game. All the student sections have their own chance to get under other teams' skin. I mean, Benny can talk about it, but UNH and Maine have a huge rivalry. So whenever Maine comes down to our barn, it's white out the wit night. So there's 7,500 people, most of them belligerently drunk. We're all wearing white, going nuts. And then it's the same once we go up to Maine. I mean, it's just jam-packed. I mean, personally, outside of the Whittemore Center, the Alphon is, I think, the best place to play in college hockey. It's, I mean, it's not quite the Whit, but it's pretty close.
Benny, same question?
Yeah, I disagree. I think the Alphon's the best place to play college hockey. But yeah, as Angus said, it's our big rival. Every time we play, everyone gets up for it. It's Maine sells out almost 6,000. Witt sells out 7,500. It's just an incredible atmosphere for both of those. I mean, you don't get it in junior hockey at all. I mean, pretty much every college team that I played this year had a band and a big student section with chants. And I mean, even for like for starting lineups, everyone lines up on the goal line and the announcer announces the away team first, and they skate up to the blue line. And if you are starting, your name's called, the student section typically has a chant at you. They usually say "you suck" or something like that. And so it's tough when you're a freshman in college and you're not sure what's going on. You have 8,000 people yelling "you suck" at you when you're skating out there. It's quite a bit different than when you're playing even in juniors, and there's lots of rinks that only have 400 or 500 fans, and the jump to that, it's very, very big.
Maco, for you, any of the traditions or cool things going on at Bowling Green? I know the guy does like the diamond cutter or whatever after the game, but can you talk to us about some of the cool things going on at Bowling Green?
Yeah, we don't have
Or Wisconsin?
anything that happens. Pardon me? Or Wisconsin? No, they don't even. They don't have as good of friends as they used to have. We have one of the best student sections in college hockey. I know they had a ranking that was out in the top 9, and we were one of those groups. And so I know what I've seen games that I know what goes on at Maine, I know what goes on at UNH, I know what goes on at the Ralph. So it's Slater Family Ice Arena is an awesome place to play as well. And we have a low ceiling, kind of like BWC, except it's a metal ceiling, and so it just reverberates in there, and it's just so loud. It's just awesome. We have a goal horn that gets blown, and it's the guy does not lay off on it; he brings it. So, but we don't have a tradition of throwing the fish like they do out east. Our thing is the diamond cutter with our team trainer after a sweep. He gets up on the cooler and does the diamond cutter, and boys love it. So if you haven't seen the video of that, go check it out on Twitter. Or on Instagram. It'll give you a pretty good laugh, because he's been the equipment manager / trainer at Bowling Green for 26 years, and the guy is an absolute beauty.
So Massimo and Angus both were lucky enough to get drafted in the NHL. Massimo, starting with you, from my story, I was sitting at the draft in Vancouver last year, and I was sitting with Jason Becker, who was your coach with the V's, and there was literally like, I don't know, 5 picks left in the draft, and I jokingly said to him, "Oh, why not take Rizzo now?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And then literally, as soon as I finished that sentence, Carolina Hurricanes select Massimo Rizzo. Can you talk about that day and what that meant to you?
Yeah, that's kind of a roller coaster of emotions that day for sure. Throughout the season, talked to a bunch of different teams and went through the interviewing process, and which was obviously a weird process talking to an NHL club. Definitely nerve-wracking, and some of them are grilling you, and some of them are just asking you questions and stuff like that. So that was a cool process to go through. And then talking with my agent and stuff, definitely didn't have the year I wanted, and then had surgery that off season. So he's like, you could get picked, you might not get picked. Just kind of see how it goes. So that day I went out. I didn't really want to think too much of it. Growing up, my dreams always playing the NHL, and the draft's just one more step. Obviously, if you don't get drafted, you still go to development camp, you still go to college, you still have that opportunity. So I kind of walked around, kind of got my mind off of it. Didn't want to watch too much. Obviously, it was in Vancouver too, but growing up, I'm a pretty competitive guy. So just, so you got different guys that I play against that I know get picked ahead of me was kind of a bitter feeling in my mouth. So kind of try to stay away from the draft board and see who's getting picked. But went to the mall with my best friend and walked around for a couple hours. And on my way back, I got a call from my agent. He's like, Carolina's got one more pick left, and they're like, they're either going to take you or you're not getting picked. So I went into my living room and I turned on the TV and saw there was 2 picks left, and Carolina was one of them. and saw my name pop up, and then kind of got a rush of emotions. Kind of realized, anywhere you're getting picked is a pretty special feeling. Get your name called and being drafted to an NHL team. So it was a pretty special moment for me and my family. But it's definitely a big milestone. But it just makes you want to work harder. You're getting picked, and I was unable to go to development camp that year because I was hurt. But obviously we can't go this year either with the coronavirus and stuff. But you want to go there that next year and kind of prove yourself and prove to everyone. But it just puts in perspective that you're close to your dreams, and it's just you got to work so much harder because now the process starts. But kind of butchered that, but that's all right.
That was all good. Angus, for you, I think you maybe thought you were maybe going to get drafted. Can you tell us about that day, and then maybe follow it up with what it was like going to like a development camp and putting on that Senators jersey?
Yeah, I mean, leading up to the draft, I didn't want to get my hopes up because I didn't know if I was going to get picked or not get picked. I just kind of spent the morning kind of not really following it. I was downstairs playing PlayStation with AJ. I came upstairs to make some breakfast, and my brother had flipped it on, and I was in the kitchen, and you can't see the TV from where my kitchen is, and I heard my brother screamed out, and like I came around the corner. And I saw my name on the screen, which was pretty cool for sure. Obviously, it sucks. My dad wasn't there; he was on a flight to Edmonton at the time, but being able to kind of spend that with that moment with my mom and my brother was pretty special. I mean, it's something that you dreamed about and made kind of the hardships that I went through when I was younger all the worthwhile. But at the end of the day, the work's not done yet. There's still a long ways to go to reach the final end goal. Development camp wise, I mean, it was pretty. My first year was pretty eye opening for sure. Like you don't really know what to expect going into it, but the way it's run, it's crazy. Like they have all your gear laid out for you. They got all your specs and everything. And I mean, they run you through some pretty strenuous tests and that sort of stuff. But it was a really cool experience being able to be in front of all the higher management there in Ottawa and being able to kind of put on some Senators gear. It makes you excited for the future. But no, I mean, it's a cool experience, but it just makes you want it that much more.
Benny, I know you didn't get drafted, but I feel like, and I'm sure Maco would agree, that you'll be the type of guy that as a junior or senior in college, the pro teams will be on you and for sure. And you'll be the type of guy that we'll see your name as Ben Poisson signed by the Vegas Golden Knights or something like that once your college season ends. Can you talk about, I think a couple Prince George like Leighton and I think your goalie got drafted that year. Can you talk about them going through that process and how maybe excited you were for them?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I never at all expected to be drafted, and I mean, the draft went by, and it was good to see a lot of guys I've played with or guys I knew personally being drafted, and lucky enough to play with two of them my last year in Prince George. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of you probably know who Leighton Ahak is. He got drafted fairly highly to Vegas, and I mean, we all knew he was going to get drafted. He was a phenomenal player. He had all the skills, but it was cool to see how his process was, because we'd be playing games in small little towns like Salmon Arm or on the island down in Alberni, and there would be NHL teams there to watch him, and it probably helped. It benefited our goalie quite a bit. I mean, he was an unbelievable goalie, and he deserved to be drafted 100%. It helped him for sure. Ahak attracted the attention, and it probably gave him a better shot to be seen. But I mean, for sure why those types of players get drafted. I mean, you can see it when you play with them, and as humans, they're good people, and they are very like driven and motivated.
Maco, for you, can you talk about that, that college free agent where that, March or April comes and they just ton of them get signed, and what sort of the college hockey route can offer for that type of player?
Well, the reality is that there's 34% of the NHL now is college players, And I don't have the percentage of those guys that didn't get drafted, but it's going to grow. It's going to continue to grow. I mean, we had a guy that we've had 3 years in a row. We've had more than one guy sign an NHL deal and they were drafted. Like Sean Walker, who is, a classic example of a guy that nobody knew who the hell he was. Ben's kind of like Ben. He was only been a lower rung than Ben, for goodness sakes. That, was it 5 years ago? He was playing Junior C in Ontario. Now he's Drew Doughty's partner. So it can happen to anybody. You just, like I said before, just keep getting better. Your goal is just to keep getting better. We had a kid that was a 2-time All-American, led our team in scoring this year, Alec Rauhauser. He signed a contract with the Florida Panthers as a senior. He had one scholarship offer coming out of Fargo, North Dakota, and that was to Bowling Green. Nobody else gave him a scholarship. Nobody even talked to him, which is crazy to me because you never know what the hell scouts are all looking at. But there's so many guys out there that have that opportunity, and playing in college now they're all watching you. Everyone is watching you. The NHL is watching every single one of those teams because they know there's so many good players there. And it's so easy for them to get to places like Bowling Green. We're 1 hour from Detroit. Every single guy who's an NHL scout just flies into Detroit, is able to come in here, and then they can go to do their Midwest tours from there. It's super simple. It's harder for them, all the teams, to get out there, but the whole East Coast group are watching every single one of Angus and Ben's games. They're there. I mean, we average about 15 to 18 scouts, NHL scouts, at every single one of our games at home. So if you want to keep playing and you have that opportunity, I don't know why you wouldn't want to extend your career and give yourself a chance to play at least until you're 24 and then step right in and play in the NHL.
Okay, last question for me, for each of you guys. What would you like to tell your 14 or 15 or 16-year-old self that you know now that you wish you knew back then? Massimo, Rizzo, start us off.
Yeah, I don't want to go first for this one. Probably just to kind of just believe myself. You're gonna go up, you're gonna play midget, you're gonna play juniors, and then however route you go. But I'm obviously going to college, and there's gonna be bumps along the road. But just stick with it. For me, it's just doing everything probably smarter, and training and skills like that. Learning my body. That's eating right. I didn't learn until like last year, a couple years ago, how important nutrition was. I'm big on getting enough sleep, getting the right food, building your daily habits. As you get more mature, you kind of learn that kind of stuff, but it's a daily thing for me. You're getting your stuff in, you're getting your right food, getting the right amount of sleep, getting the right amount of water. Like Maco says, you want to get a little bit better each year. You want to get a little bit better every day. So however you can do that. But also just to have fun with it. I think that's the best part about hockey, is because you love it and you have fun. So even when you're in juniors and things aren't going well, or you're kind of upset or you're lacking confidence, just to continue to have fun and continue to smile. I think that's when you're playing your best. And so enjoy every moment.
Angus, same question.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would just be sticking with it. I mean, at least in my case, I had to go through some pretty big ups and downs, and I don't know, knowing at the end of the day that it'll all work out in the long run definitely would benefit my 14-year-old self. But I mean, like Massimo said, I think just enjoying yourself. I mean, hockey's this game that we all fell in love with from a very young age, and it's brought us all some of our best friendships. So I mean, just continue to develop those friendships and like enjoy your time on the ice, and just try and find ways to get better every single day.
Benny?
Yeah, Massimo nailed it. Hockey's fun. It should be fun. And I mean, the more you enjoy it, the more you're going to want to work on your game and develop how you are as a player. Aside from that, I think the biggest thing I would look back at is it worked out. It benefited me really well, is to take risks. I mean, take that chance. I left St. George's. That was a big risk for me. And then I was at BWC and I had 2 good years, and I could have comfortably stayed to have a 3rd year, but I did take that risk to move out in grade 12 and go up to Prince George and learn that. And then there's another side to that too, where it's the risk management and should you take that risk? I mean, I believed I was ready to move on and take that chance, but I mean, if you evaluate it and realize maybe staying back and developing for an extra year does help you. I mean, I think if I went into school, I had opportunity to go into college a year before I did, and if I went in, I think I would have missed my best year or one of my best years of hockey in Prince George, and I think I would have missed that, and that was really important for me that year. So I'm very happy that I decided that to take that and evaluate that may have not have been the best chance.
Maco, if you could remember that far back to when you were 14, what you'd want to tell yourself?
I really think that you can't put pressure on yourself. You just can't. You got to bet on yourself. Like you have to be your best friend when it comes to how you talk to yourself, how you train, how you sleep. You have to put yourself first in those situations. And I think that too often we think that we can, I'll just do that tomorrow. No, the sooner you do it, the better. The more time you invest in yourself, the better off you're going to be. I know it's funny because I didn't even lift weights until I was 18 years old. And when I played pro, we didn't even have a gym in our rink. So the game has changed so much. It's crazy, but you don't have to be training every single second of every single day. I think it's really important to get a break. It's really important to get away. It's not important for you to be on the ice all the time. Some guys love it, but you need to get away from it, refresh, recharge, re-energize, and then you got to be able to go balls when you come back. Like you have to be able to get yourself and push yourself so that you are in the top shape that you can be. And I don't think that enough of our guys value how important that part of that aspect is. I mean, you can ask Angus and you can ask Ben. I think Mass would tell you the exact same thing. Like your conditioning is probably the single most important thing that you can do to get yourself ready to play at whatever level you're going to, because the speed just jumps up and up and up and up and up as you go.
Thanks, Maco. I think, obviously COVID was a terrible thing, but I think the opportunity for each person, for me, I'm totally speaking selfishly, like for me to be able to have Zoom calls and read books and get off the ice, like I think it's been super beneficial for me, and hopefully it's been beneficial for all the athletes. I just want to thank you guys for doing the call. My 3 takeaways and what I've learned, like Benny, I loved your line of we played like dicks with Prince George. I thought that was awesome, and it's true. Angus, I loved your comment about being a teammate, not a friend. Like really push your teammates to get better. Obviously, we've all been watching Last Dance, and Michael Jordan is that for sure, and we know Tom Brady is too. Mass, I loved how you said you embrace sports psychology and you have no stigma for that whatsoever. And then Maco, I love the sprinting in the off season and what you just said about like don't work tomorrow. Do it, get some work done today. If there's any guys out there that wants to ask a question, just unmute your mic and ask away.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, boys. That's one thing I learned.
Sounds like.
Are all offers full rides?
I'll handle that one for you. No. For these 3 guys, yes. But that's not the usual experience for the majority of players. It's just not. You have most college teams, like Angus, how many guys do you have on your team? And how many stalls do you have?
I think we got 28 guys.
28. Benny, how many?
30.
30. How many guys are going to be in the room next year, Moss, with Nodek?
No idea.
No idea.
Probably
okay, we
something
got
like that.
probably somewhere around there, right? Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
got 26. We have 26. Next year we might have 27-ish. So, you guys can do the math. We dress 20 players. So with that being said, there's 18 scholarships there's 61 teams in Division I college hockey. 2 of those you guys can't be a part of. That's Army and Air Force. And then there's 8 Division I schools that are called Ivy League, and they do not give out scholarships. So the remaining 51 teams have scholarships, and they have 18 of them. So they have to split those 18 amongst their players. So they might have, like, Angus, how many walk-ons do you guys have that are paying out of pocket?
Last year we had 2 walk-ons.
2. Okay. How many guys do you have, Benny?
I think we have 2 this year that we're paying fully.
Paying fully. How many guys on halves, Ben?
Oh,
Approximately.
Maine divides out their scholarships, so they try and give out as many 85s as they can, so they can.
85s.
But a lot of guys are between about 60 and 80 at Maine.
16. Okay. So Andrew, does that answer your question, man?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's unrealistic to expect that every single player is going to get 100 unless you're, a top ranked guy like these 3 guys are. If you're a top, like a second line player on your team, that a guy that works hard, that's probably going to translate to be a third, fourth liner in college, then you're probably going to be anywhere from a maximum 70 to, maybe a 25% scholarship, and the rest you'll have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then the cost varies. Like, it could be anywhere from, you could pay $90,000 if you're going to an East Coast school, or or a private school like Colorado College. And if you go to a state school like a Lake Superior State, it might cost you 25 Canadian.
Yeah.
So it's completely all across the board what it costs. Angus, what's tuition at UNH?
For international out of state, it's 75 a year.
Okay, Ben, Maine.
I'm about 65.
65. Riz, do you know?
I think it's 30 or something like that.
I think we're both about the same. We're both about 32 to 36 for our 2 schools. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's American.
Thank you. Yeah.
So add 30% on that.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Ain't cheap.
Tyson Dick?
No, he's looking down at his phone.
Hey, Leland, I got a question from a parent here.
Ooh.
Yep.
Just, Maco there, thanks to you and the rest of them for doing this. Just a quick question, if you can give a percentage-wise. What percentage do you think, and I think, Maco, you might have answered it a bit for your school, but what percentage would you say that a kid going through the 4-year sort of program at a school is actually coming out with their degree?
Well, Angus, how many of your seniors graduated with degrees this year?
All of them.
All of them. How many seniors did you have in your senior class?
We had 6 seniors.
Okay, and they all graduated on time with their degrees?
Correct.
Yeah, awesome. What about Benny? Do you know?
Yeah,
Offhand?
7 seniors all graduated. We had one guy who signed Swayman signed after his junior year, but he took his capstone this year, and so he's finishing up his degree this summer. So he'll graduate before he plays pro.
Yeah. And we, all 7 of our seniors graduated with their degrees too, Mr. Burt.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can I ask one more?
Yep.
Of course you can.
Would you take a better student over a better hockey player as a deciding factor for like a last spot or last couple spots?
Great question.
Angus, what would happen at UNH?
They're They're going to take the better student.
Benny, Maine.
Yeah. Maine's not as academically driven as a lot of other universities, but I think they would try and take a student who had high enough grades to qualify for academic aid, which is likely in the 90s, is kind of mostly A's in high school.
Right. Moss, what do you think? What would happen in North Dakota?
I think they take the better student. I think too. I mean, obviously not everyone's great in school, but I think it shows if you have good grades while you're playing hockey. It kind of shows that you work hard, both on and off the ice too, and you take that stuff seriously. So kind of shows your character, and schools and coaches like that.
I agree. Like it really matters. Like I can't impress upon you guys how important it is for you to do as well as you can. The less you do with your GPA and your test score, the less schools that you have an opportunity to get into. It's that simple. And you make yourself more marketable. Like if we can give you like Ben said, if we can give you some type of help monetarily from an academic standpoint, that takes away the money that we would spend on you from a hockey standpoint, and it makes it easier for us to recruit you as a player. Because then your parents don't think, oh Christ, I got to spend this much money. If we can get the cheaper we can get it for you, the better opportunity we'll have for you to come to school.
Tyson Dick.
He got nothing.
He sent me a message, said he has a question.
Well, he should unmute himself, or he's frozen. I think he's frozen staring at us there. He's frozen. Tell him to text you the question.
Yeah, I'm just sending him that.
How does a game day work at a university?
Say it again.
Like, how does a game day work, like, at a university? Is it like a pregame skate and like with like homework and like how does that all get done?
Ben, what's a typical Friday like for you at Maine when you got a game at home?
Fridays, so I didn't have a class on Friday this year, so I wouldn't go. But typically, you have your morning class. You go to class. There's ice available in the morning for morning skate, and so for guys who are not in the lineup, the morning skate's mandatory unless you have class. And then the guys in the lineup, it's a fully optional morning skate where you can either go out and the coaches will run 10, 15 minutes of just warm-up drills and shooting drills for you, or you could go on the ice after the coaches get off and just practice whatever you want. Yeah. And then after that, we go through about half-hour video and like opponent prep, and then we get sent back to our apartments to nap or do whatever else you want on a game day. And then we come back to the rink at 3:00. We have a meal waiting for us at the rink. It's usually chicken and pasta. And then do one more video session. Then we go back to our apartments, get into our suits, and we have about an hour to shower, get into our suits, and be back at the rink for about 2.5 hours before the game.
I guess pretty similar.
Ours is literally the exact same.
Yeah. The only difference that ours is we eat at right after practice, because a lot of our guys, the way we're set up, we're similar to the way Ben, you guys had it at Maine in your second semester. All of our practices are our workouts are in the morning, our practices are in the morning, and the entire rest of the day is for school and being a student. So on a game day, our guys are out of there by 11:30. We eat at 11:30. It's there for our guys. And then we also have like light snacks type of stuff when they come back to the rink. And then just like you guys both have a post-game meal at the rink?
Yep.
Do you have a to-go meal or do you eat it at the rink?
It changes sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah,
You are fed like an absolute king in college. It's ridiculous. How much? Ben, do you guys have breakfast at the rink?
Sometimes it depends. Usually on game days we do, but
Okay.
or days we're traveling, but not regular days.
Okay. We give our guys breakfast and then they have lunch as well at our rink. Angus, what's the situation like at UNH?
So we don't have food at the rink. We have it at the dining halls.
Okay.
But we have our own like
Meal plan.
buffet area in the dining halls.
Okay. And then Riz, you guys have a personal chef at Nodak, don't you?
Yeah, we got a private chef, so we got 3 meals a day.
Must be nice. Tough life.
But so game day, that's a different world there. Game day is pretty similar though across the board. Most teams have an optional or a skate, a really short skate of 10 to 15 minutes, and then you're out, you're gone. And I would say 100% of our guys go to school on that day because it's important. Saturdays they're probably their favorite day because they don't have to go to school. Can just be like a regular hockey player day.
All right, Maco, the question from Tyson Dick was, and I think we've known a couple people at Harvard with this. Since teams carry more than a full roster, is it unusual for some players not to dress for the whole year?
No, that's normal. We had 2 guys that were walk-ons that were here, and they never played one game. And they knew they weren't going to play one game unless there was massive injuries, and we told them that. But they were fine with that. That's part of the recruiting process where you have that conversation, telling guys like you may never play. And I know, like I had kids that, when we were out in Harvard and we were at the Bean Pod and guy never played, and he could have been their top 4 defensemen, but they had other things that were going on with NHL draft picks on their roster and that, and it's going to be like that sometimes. It's hard to deal with, I know, but you have to understand and be clear in your head about what it's going to be like when you go there, because that will happen. Angus, how many guys in your team never played a game this year that weren't redshirting?
We had a guy who didn't play a game this year, didn't redshirt.
Just didn't play.
We just didn't play, but I want to say there was 3 guys that didn't play a game. 2 of them redshirted, 1 didn't.
Benny?
We had 1 guy redshirt who didn't play all year, obviously, but other than that, everyone who was able to play, except for our backup goalies, neither of them really played. One of them played a period, but everyone else played. But I think 6 or 7 guys got less than 5 games. And
like our third goalie dressed for every single game. He didn't see 1 second.
Yeah, same as us.
I had a question and now I forgot. Anyways, I guess I'll forget.
Come on, Pomo.
I really appreciate you guys doing this. Does anyone else have a question out there? Or sorry, I don't know. Can you just quickly explain what redshirting means?
Yeah, that means that you you say you're not, whether it's medical or you've worked it out with the coaching staff, that because you feel you're not ready to play or you're not going to be able to play, you ask for a declaration with the NCAA that you would not play any games that year. In exchange, you would get another year of eligibility, so you could in essence go to school for 5 years.
Thank you. Thanks guys for this. This was awesome. It's nice catching up with old BWC guys. It was really fun. Hopefully there was lots of guys on the call. Hopefully they got something out of it. And just like we're all in this COVID era, there's a lot that can be learned right now, taking a pause from hockey all the time, right? So appreciate you guys doing that. Ben, Angus, Riz, Maco, it was awesome. And hopefully see you guys soon somewhere.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us, Leland.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
If anybody wants to ask me a question privately, most of you guys have my number. If you don't, you can get it from Leland. So feel free to let me know. No problem.
Yeah, same goes for me. I'm sure you guys can DM me or something if you have any more questions.
Yep, same thing.
Not Riz though.
Not Riz.
No, I was gonna say.
Don't talk to him.
Don't call me. That's what Riz said. Good to see you, boys. Good to see all the guys on the call. It's awesome. Have a great off season. Get yourself ready, and hopefully we have a great season coming up here.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maco. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, Tyler
Good to
Chan
see you guys.
just joined the call for some reason.
TC just showed up. Thanks for coming, bro.
No, I had to go do my fitting. I had to leave to do my fitting, and then I thought it wasn't over yet, so I came back.
Oh,
Literally
okay.
just ended the second you.
You got any questions, TC?
No, I got nothing. Thank you though.
You'll watch the recording though, right?
Pardon?
We're gonna watch the recording though, right?
Yeah, I'll watch the second half that I missed.
There'll be
Okay.
a test later.
Okay. All right. Good to see you guys. Take it easy.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
All right. Bye.